All right. Now, welcome back, folks. This is going to be the next part for this 2018 list. Now, before I forget, I do not want to forget this. An honorable mention that I should say that I forgot to mention in my top music list, the melodic black metal band Hoth from Washington State. They had their album Astral Necromancy this year. It's definitely up. It's going to be in the middle of the list somewhere. I'm not sure where. Sorry Hoth, forgot you guys, but this album's fantastic. I really hope it's about Darth Plagueis, because they've consistently sang about, they've had Star Wars centered lyrics. So Astral Necromancy, a great album by that band. And without further ado, I'm gonna go into concerts of the year. I've seen some other folks do it. I'm not sure if I did it last year, but I might as well do it this year because I wrote it down. So, concerts that I attended this year. I did 10. Top 10. Now, this isn't super solid. I just kind of was like, thought of the good time I had. But I did my best and I'm going to go along with it. So, at number 10, Satyricon in New York City. Good friend of mine and myself, we went on up to New York City. It was at Gramercy, the Gramercy Plaza up there in Manhattan, and we saw Satyricon play. So according to them, it's going to be their final North American tour, or what's projected to be their final North American tour. So they had a really fantastic set list. After the show, we got to hang out with them. It was pretty cool. So it was a good, all around it was a good time. So a fond farewell to Satyricon, and hopefully, fingers crossed, maybe they'll do some more in the future. So, but we'll see. Number 9, Fleshgod Apocalypse. They had toured with Black Dahlia Murder, and so they gave a fantastic performance. Of course, this is with the new lineup. Fabio as their guitarist, of course, with what's his name, Francesco is singing with the band. Of course, he had with the Oracles album, and he did with Our Repentance. And then David is their drummer now. Now, what additionally, besides the fact that they performed extremely well, and so did Whitechapel and Black Dahlia Murder. I'm not as huge of a fan of those bands, but they did a great show live-wise. But what made it really awesome was after the show, Francesco came out, and I said, oh, hey, is there a chance Fabio and David are hanging around? Because I had, Fabio, of course, played guitar in the tech death band Deceptionist, and then David plays drums for Stormlord, who are one of my top black metal bands in Italy. So those guys, not only did those guys, he brought them both out, but both of them had their respective band shirts. So Fabio had the Deceptionist shirt and David had a Stormlord shirt. So we got a picture with them and they signed the stuff. So that was pretty awesome. So moving along, number 8, Persephone in New York City. Now, Persephone is like a progressive melodic death metal band. They're from Andorra, which is between Spain and France. And their music is just a really awesome blend of atmospheric progressive metal with melodic death metal. And so their performance was really incredible, just playing their music live and picking up their stuff and hanging out with them afterwards for a brief time. It was really an awesome experience. And you know, I consistently listened to them for quite some time after that. So, number 7, Dark Tranquillity, Amorphous, Moonspell, and did I get everybody? No. Omnium Gatherum. Fantastic tour. Just a bunch of bands. I've seen every band that was on that list at least once, but it was really cool seeing them all together. So a really cool show. It was awesome hanging out with a ton of friends that were at the show. So for sure, number 7, Dark Tranquillity with that amazing lineup all together. Number 6, The Offspring with 311 at the Festival Pier. So the Offspring, had grown up with them, had been a fan of them, and some buddies, and I met up with some buddies after work, and then we just had a good time with an outdoor show right out there in Philadelphia, and so we saw the Offspring. So this is definitely one of those childhood things, and listening to those bands and listening to their music is pretty awesome. Number 5, Cradle of Filth with Ginger. Now, 2 things with this. Number 1, Ginger are just this fantastic band from the Ukraine, and they're really, how would I phrase this? They're up and coming. They're a young band. Their music's just this really interesting blend of like djenty, like Meshuggah, you know, After the Burial type of stuff, and they mix it with like a little bit of prog and some more. So kind of. They're a hybrid. They got a lot going on. So their singer, Tatiana, she not only sings gutturally, but she sings clean vocals extremely well. Kind of reminiscent of like The Agonist, but it's a different style. It's a very different style. But Ginger, for sure. A fantastic performance with them. Of course, I believe, yes, that was their first time in the U.S. So that Cradle of Filth tour really did that. So not only that, but Cradle of Filth, their past 2 albums have really kind of come back to that older style that they had. So just both bands did really fantastic. I know Danny had some vocal issues because he had been sick or something like that. And so he was just like, I'm sorry guys, I'm giving it my best. But he really gave it his all. And it was a really fun, exciting performance. So kudos to them for keeping it going. So at number 5, Cradle of Filth and Ginger. So number 4, Karak Angren, Mors Principium Est, and Wolfheart. This was up at the Stanhope House in New Jersey. Not only were some friends there and we were hanging out, but each band was really awesome in their performance, and we got to hang out with each band. And one of the really cool things about it was the drummer of Mors Principium Est. Who texted me? Leave me alone. He was the drummer in a symphonic death doom band called Depressed Mode from Finland. And the band's from Finland, of course. But he was the drummer in that band, and I had my booklet, and I was like, oh, hey, you see this? You know, you probably haven't seen this one in a minute. So, you know, he's just like, dude, how do you have this? Like, are you crazy? You know this band? I was like, yeah, man. He's like, dude, I got a text. He's like, I got to text you with a CD, like, and I'll send it to the other band members. So who knows? Fingers crossed. Maybe the band will get back together. They unfortunately split up a few years back, but that'd be awesome to see them come back together again. So anywho, at number 4, Karak with Mors and Wolfheart up at Stanhope in New Jersey. So number 3. Obscura, Beyond Creation, Archspire, and Infera up in New York City. I can't remember the name of the venue off of the top of my head, but it's in Brooklyn, and my buddy and I went up there for the show. Every single one of those bands is just incredible when it comes to tech death. I already mentioned Infera in my top lists. So Revenant being this, you know, amazing melodic tech album. Archspire, of course, had my number 1 for their album last year. And then Beyond Creation, you know, amazing band. And then, of course, Obscura, to top it all off, Obscura. So after the show, we hung out for a little bit with the bands, and due to the trains being gone, we got city bikes. So we ended up renting the city bikes, and we were biking around Brooklyn and Manhattan in the middle of the night. It was like between 2 and 4 o'clock until we had to wait for the next train. So to top off that amazing lineup, we got to bike around on bikes. So it was pretty awesome. It was a great time. So number 2, Heavy Montreal with Emperor. Emperor being my favorite band of all time. You better believe it. What an amazing experience. It was a little bit hot. And here's what's crazy. Ginger, who put on a great performance, it started storming. It was raining. There was just a downpour. And then we went over to the Emperor to see them at the stage. And then, boom, you could see the storm in the background, lightning going off. and then Emperor came and they did their anthems set list, and then of course they did at the very end, they just topped it off with like amazing hits like Curse You All Men, I Am the Black Wizard, and just an incredible performance. I think the band had a good time too. Out of all the times I've seen Emperor, I think they really just had fun with it. And the crowd, oh my gosh, the crowd was so into it. They were all quiet. And so, Heavy Montreal, number 2. Now, you probably are wondering, man, your favorite band, really cool festival? What could have topped that? At number 1, Battlelore in Tampere at the Club A in Tampere, Finland. I had asked the band around this time last year, I said, hey, are you doing any performances? And they said, matter of fact, we are in March. So I booked a flight. I flew from New York to Stockholm, Sweden to Helsinki, Finland, and then took a bus up to Tampere. This was just an incredible concert. I was the only individual from the United States there, and the venue itself was really cool. I can't really describe it as in it was, you know, your typical bar / stage venue, but it was just really chill, down to earth. And it's cool to see that, you know, no matter where you're at all around the world, metal shows have that similarity of having a good time, etc. But the band was just incredible performance-wise. They had an amazing set list. 3 individuals from Germany were there, and we all became friends, so shout out to y'all. And I'll see you in Germany next month. That's going to be awesome. So we were all hanging out. Afterwards, the band took care of us. We all hung out afterwards, and I'll never forget, the drummer had been like, dude, you're crazy. You flew all the way out here to see our little band. I'm like, hey man, not only am I seeing y'all, but there's 2 things I love to do: travel and see concerts. So I went to museums. The next day I went to Helsinki. I will say this, Hyperion played in Helsinki the next day, an amazing black metal band from Sweden. They were in my top list last year as far as albums. They played in Helsinki. It was like a last-minute show. Had I known about it, I would have been there. And that would have made it a more incredible experience all around. But it did not occur, but I still had fun seeing the museums and just being a tourist. And then when I went to Stockholm, I did the same thing and enjoyed the city. And so, number 1, Battlelore over in Tampere, Finland. An amazing time. So that's for the concerts for the year.